Welcome to our Emergence session for May 14th, 2022, Not Just One Hat, Diversifying Your Art, with our special guest mentor, Kristina Lao, our very esteemed core mentor, Deirdre Morgan, and I am your other mentor / host today, Krystle Santos. So thank you for being here. It's going to be a wonderful session. I know that we've had an amazing amount of registrations for this particular session. So that just goes to show, how much this program is working. And that makes my heart glow. Really, it does. So let us get started. So like I said, my name is Krystle Santos, and today's session is Not Just One Hat, Diversifying Your Art. We will dive into many different perspectives of what this means to each of us individually, and then we'll obviously open it up because this is always a open panels type discussion. Today is one of our classic sessions, so we'll actually have breakout rooms available about halfway through where you can talk to, and we'll split everyone up to speak to our mentors in smaller groups so you can address more personal or specific issues. Very exciting. It will be 2 hours in length today, so 10 until noon, depending on where you are. And as I mentioned, with a breakout room session, if this is your first time, we'd like to give you a very warm welcome to the Emergence family. And that is exactly what we are. We just love our community here. And we know that you can be anywhere this morning and that you're giving us your time and your attention. So we appreciate that. And of course, I'm always excited to see the familiar faces, as I mentioned before. Lovely to see everyone again. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that today's session comes to you from the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And we'd we'd also like to acknowledge the generous support of Creative BC, the province of British Columbia, the city of Vancouver, and our host organization, Red Chamber Cultural Society. Thank you. So today's session will be streamed live to our Facebook page and will also be posted to YouTube afterwards. If you have any problems or would not like to be included on any of that, we do edit our videos before we post them, so please do let us know by emailing Lola. We will give that information afterwards to make sure that you are feeling good about today's session and when we post it. Friendly reminder to please mute your mic unless you're speaking. And if you leave briefly, go ahead and turn off your video until you return. And our sessions, of course, are interactive, so we welcome questions from everyone. Please write your questions in the chat room, or if you prefer to stay anonymous, then you can either write Lola or myself, and we will ask it as an anonymous question. And of course, you can also use the raise hand function, and we can just pop you onto live video if your question feels like more conversational. Of course, the structure of today is that we will have a little bit of a chat from each of our mentors, and then we will dive into a bit more of the interactive style of things or answer your questions after we give a bit of our personal experience on the topics. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce you to our panel today. First up, we have Kristina Lao. Kristina, her, is an artist advocate with over 15 years working internationally as a creator, connector, and curator in film, music, and media. She's originally from Hong Kong, now residing in the unceded territory, traditional Coast Salish lands, included the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam nations, also known as Vancouver, BC. Kristina is a working actor, songwriter, narrator, and co-founder of Bombshell Brunches. In 2022, she is part of the Story Hive Summer Crew, live streaming local events around Vancouver. She's concurrently an event curator and career consultant, working with organizations including the Vancouver Asian Film Festival, Renaissance Opera, and Eliminate Hate. She has hosted over 200 events, panels, and workshops in the last 5 years and helped over 1,000 graduates and emerging artists connect to opportunities in film, TV, and music and media to date. She has participated on multiple provincial and national music and media industry boards and panels. Kristina specializes in developing and championing sustainable career pathways in creative industries while reducing visible and invisible barriers to entry. Welcome, Kristina. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. It's so weird to have someone read out your bio while you're listening. You're like, wow, I feel really old. Oh, I feel like, yeah, there's so many feel likes. So hi, everyone. It's really nice to see you all today. I know some faces in the room, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know the rest of you. So it's 10:10. I have what, 5 minutes? 5 minute sort of so. Okay, so Krystle pretty much covered everything that I can think of. Thank you very much to Krystle and to Lola. Always thank the tech people, and to Deirdre for having me today. So I want to ask a question. I'm pretty interactive when we do these types of sessions. The first thing is, I think Deirdre also would agree, and Krystle, we're all really happy for you to drop notes in the chat. I like to keep the chat function open next to me so that I can see in real time what's happening and how people feel about things. And I have a couple of questions. I will caveat it and say this is only if you feel comfortable, but just to gauge the room, I would love to know what type of primary art you currently create. So whether you consider yourself to be a producer, and you can just drop it in the chat so that I can see that and get a bit of a gauge on what primary art form you're currently creating. So if you can put that in now, that would be amazing. Lola, if you could just maybe put that sentence in, what's your primary art form, and then people can respond to that. That would be really useful. Let's see. Okay, great. Thank you. So singer-songwriter, producer, vocalist, songwriter, composer. Awesome, great. Now, if you're feeling comfortable enough to say this, tell me what percentage of your income currently comes from that primary art form. That is I have had years where I'm like zero. This is a zero answer. There is no wrong answer, but if you prefer to say something a little bit more subjective, you can. It's really important from a career coaching perspective for me to understand. 0 to 10% on a good month. Great. Love it. Very little. Yep. Okay. 0. And then the final question I have, so thank you. That gives me a really good gauge on where we're at. 3%. That's very specific. I love it. Final question is, what are your alternative income sources? So you can tell me what the profession title is that you have. If you have multiple other hats already, I would love to know. And, for example, I do freelance consulting. I am an actor, a signed actor. So I actively make income that way. However you would like to describe it, it will give me a better understanding of how the room is kind of already bringing in income sources. So and if you have one, it sounds like sound therapy is that a full-time? Is that full-time or is it part-time? Part-time, great. Okay, so part-time and commercial songwriting and seamstress, great. Okay, work-related accident. So student loans, full-time. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Love it. That gives me a really good understanding of not just where your income sources are, but also where you're at in terms of flexibility and where your potential income could come from. So thank you for doing that. So in the last minute for me, because I've got a 5-minute introduction, thank you for sharing all of those things. It's really, really important to get basically a roadmap and know where we've started. And then as we dig into the breakout rooms, we can go a little bit further. So in an additional 60 seconds for me, there are some really important things that I typically will go through with anyone that I do an individual career coaching session with. Number one, we do a blue sky exercise, which is what you would do if you couldn't fail. And there's a reason that I typically will start any conversation like that, because ultimately you can't control the tides, you can't control the seas, but you can build the strongest surfboard to be able to catch the biggest wave. The difference is what type of surfboard or what type of boat or what type of thing you're building should be based on the characteristics of your blue sky, of your ultimate goal. So a lot of people tell me, I want to do sync and licensing, and they are immediately making that choice because of their pre-existing self-restrictions that they've placed on their career. The reality is most people don't want to do the work that it takes. I know, I'm sorry, I got really emotional straight away. They don't necessarily want to do the work that it takes to be in sync and licensing. And they also don't enjoy the process of sync and licensing. But we think that it's an easy income, and therefore, based on our current perception of our restrictions in our career and our life, we try and create these kind of like lower level goals to achieve. Now, if you do that, you're only ever going to be aspiring to mediocrity. But if you have a blue sky picture in your mind, you know that we all know that we can't control the outcome, but we can embody the traits of that blue sky. And for me, that is what the key is to effective, creative, sustainable careers in entertainment. So for example, I say, I would love to be Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot wouldn't exist. I would do a Marvel film 2-3 times a year. And I take a step back from that outcome, because obviously that's an unrealistic outcome. Also because I don't want Gal Gadot to not exist. Have you seen her? She's amazing. But the point is, what I did then was say, why is that important to me? It's important for me to look at that blue sky and go, oh, it's because she's so powerful. It's because she's kind. It's because she's doing good things. It's because she's fit and healthy and intelligent and fierce. And I then take those traits and embody them in my life. And so I started doing the grouse grind 3 times a week, because I was like, well, that's as close to superhero power as I can get. I need to be super fit. I want to be doing action films. I hope that that's a good, clear example of what blue sky is to me. So without going too far down it, that's essentially how I start every single session. And I would love for you to step into this, if you're in a breakout room with me, with that in mind, because when you then get to embody the traits that you honor and respect every single day, you're allowing yourself to be open to the best outcome that can get to you. But if you say, I'm going to do accounting in the music industry, or I'm going to do a lower level thing, you're only aspiring to something that will at best make you feel mediocre and like you're kind of enough, or making it, or getting by, right? And then on the other side of it, when you do have that understanding, the things that you don't love and you don't want to do, you get to see them as a pathway towards the things that you really do love, instead of as a labor. So I hope that makes sense. I have a lot more information on resumes and drilling right down. But for me, that's the kind of biggest first piece that then helps you to understand your existing skill set, look at the transferability, and help you reach a daily sense of satisfaction as you're going for that blue sky.
Wow, I feel super motivated already. I love that. I've never heard that blue sky term. I think that's incredible. I consider this a similar sort of mentality, like manifest destiny. Like, I just kind of, you kind of want it, you be it, you embody the things that, really give you that sort of amazing feeling and that amazing drive forward. But I love that idea of blue sky. That's really, really cool. It's almost like practical manifestation. Exactly. So next up, we have our lovely core mentor, Dr. Deirdre Morgan. Deirdre Morgan is professor of music at Vancouver Community College. She's a scholar and performer of the Jew's harp, an ancient mouth resonated musical instrument found in many cultures around the world. And Deirdre has studied the instrument since 2005, speaking, performing, and conducting award-winning research in over a dozen countries. And of course, that is a very short bio for our lovely, amazing Dr. Deirdre Morgan. So I will introduce you now so you can tell us everything you know in a nutshell.
Yay! Thank you so much. Okay, I just have to actually grab a Jew's harp because it feels weird to not have one, especially as we have some newer faces joining us today. Let me just see if I can quickly find one. Oh God, they're all in a tangle, of course. Okay, so I love that Kristina was talking about what is your blue sky? What's the thing you would do? What would you pursue if you couldn't fail? And for me, it's this thing right here. This is my little instrument. This is what I did my PhD on, and it's weird. It's unusual. It's ancient. It's really old. It makes a boing boing twangy sound. And it's throughout history been really, really overlooked as even being like a serious or real musical instrument. So even to pursue this instrument as a player and as a scholar was required a lot of blue sky thinking on my part. So I really resonate with that. I even had people kind of try to steer me away a little bit, but I had a lot of people who were like, no, just keep going. And I did. And my sort of blue sky thing was, can I make a life around my passion for this musical instrument? Can I actually do that? And what's a life? Well, like a full-time existence where I am covered and it's self-sustaining. And the answer was yes. And now that I'm a music professor, that was able to be manifested. But I didn't do that by solely having tunnel vision for my weird instrument. I kept that as my kind of North Star, like that was the magnetic force that kept pulling me forward, because I just knew that this instrument is amazing and that it's found all over the world in so many different cultures. And there's like this endless, to me, it feels like an endless field of inquiry, an endless field of being able to meet other people through it, an endless field of different playing techniques for me to learn or learn about. So my faith that my topic and my dream was sound was like solid, and I had to cling to that. And I had to cling to that while I took a lot of diversions on my path, because I couldn't, you can't go to an academic job interview and they're like, so what courses can you teach? I can't just be like, Jews harp. First of all, people don't even know what it is, right? So you have to be able to do different things. And sometimes you have to be able to become fluent in languages that you're not as interested in speaking or aren't your main passion. I have found a lot of secondary passions along the way through diversifying my my resume and just my skill set and what I'm able to do. So like my dad always likes to say, time spent on reconnaissance is seldom wasted. That's like an army saying, apparently. So all that market research that you do, all that time that you spend researching, trying things out, trying to do different things, it's not actually wasted, even if it feels like it was, or like it didn't result in a win, or it didn't result in something that was like a tangible profit. Sometimes the most valuable thing is going down a little cul-de-sac on your path and being like, nope, not for me. We're going back to the main path. So all of that, nothing is a failure. I've said this many, many times before. Nothing is a failure. It's all growth. It's all development. And there's lots of cul-de-sacs when you're trying to figure out a life, a creative life. You have to try out a lot of stuff. The second thing I wanted to share was in my work at VCC Music, I was running for a couple years. I was the person who was doing the info sessions. So that's like, you can sign up for a free Zoom Q&A session with me and another one of my colleagues and just ask questions about the programs. And usually it would be the applicants themselves who would attend the info session, but sometimes parents. Sometimes we would have people like fresh out of high school or people who were still in high school, who were still pretty young. And sometimes like their mom would show up to the info session on their behalf. And one of the mom questions that I would get at the info session is, so what kind of job can they get if they do this music degree at your institution, right? Like, what's the career? What do you get? What can you do? What can you do with this? And with music in particular, y'all know how it is. You've probably had this conversation with your family, maybe your partner, maybe your friends, maybe your loved ones. Some people might think you're kind of crazy for wanting to be a creative person. And it's just one of those sort of unfortunate indoctrinations in our culture that people are like, ooh, when you say, oh, I want to be an artist, people are like, oh, well, how are you going to eat? How are you going to pay your rent? So what do I say to these moms at the info session, is what I'm going to say to you. I say to these moms, well, it really depends on the person, what they're going to get out of this. And most of our graduates and most people, you don't even have to go to music school for this to be true, but most people who are pursuing a path in music end up doing multiple jobs. It's just the reality of it. There are not a lot of people who go into one full-time job. But it really depends what your area is, right? And that's why it's so great to see in the chat. I love seeing so many women here today who are doing like singer-songwriter / producer. I love how many more women are coming into the producing space and self-producing. It's awesome. It's so awesome. We have the technology. Yes. So, even when you're a songwriter, like a lot of us get really attached to the idea that we're always going to be the one who's going to perform our music. But songwriting for other people is a huge area. And just seeing that Kat Bryan is currently doing commercial songwriting, that's amazing, right? So think of like Carole King, Dolly Parton. There are major artists in the industry who've actually had their biggest hits with somebody else doing a cover of their song, or they wrote a song for someone else, right? And they made a lot of money. They made a lot of money off someone else doing like an amazing version of their song. So sometimes we can come in as artists with a quite a narrow vision, and like we have to be the one who does everything, or it has to be all our own glory. But there's so much work and so much opportunity to be had through collaboration. So much. For composers, that might mean commercial work, or it might be film scoring, working in TV, like working on the more commercial end of things. Hell, writing jingles, if that's your thing. Now, if you have that vision where you're like, nope, I know that I'm a poet, I do the lyrics, I do the song, I need to be doing my own stuff. Great, great. Not trying to steer you away from that. But essentially, when I'm talking to these parents, I'm like, your kid is probably going to end up doing a combination of playing music, maybe performing, although performing, I would say, is the smallest percentage of income to be had is through live performance. Unless you're doing like tours, and which are grant funded. It's not even like the audience that you're making money off of. It's like the grant covers a lot of those expenses. A lot of people in the music space will end up teaching at least part-time. Private lessons are a huge mainstay of most of the professional musicians that I work with. And we have 30 faculty members at VCC Music. And almost all of them are part-time, teaching lessons at VCC, have private studios, are performing artists with like standing kind of like house band gigs at some of the venues in town, which those are hard gigs to get. Those are prized gigs. There's not that many to go around. So if you get one of those, they tend to keep those for a long time. And a lot of people are session musicians, right? Like you're the person who's not the front person of the band. Like you're the person who's not the face. You're just the sound on the recording. You're the sound on someone's album. You might not even be in the touring band, but your sound is there on the recorded version of the track. So there's so many different ways of existing. And some people go into education, right? Some people actually go do their bachelor's degree, do their teacher training, 1 year of PDP, and then they go and become a K-12 music teacher, classroom teacher. And some people are like me who decide to go into the academics, lose their mind and do a master's and a PhD and spend all their time and money just with their face in a book to eventually teach in post-secondary. So there's a million bajillion ways of doing this. And a lot of the time it requires doing part-time or even full-time jobs that are not our passion. And that's okay. And I love what Kristina said about just see that as part of the path and it's part of the process. It's what's getting you to the next step. It is absolutely not beneath you whatsoever if you need to be working a 9 to 5 right now, to take care of your immediate financial realities while you are figuring out where you're going and working on your stuff in your own time. So I think I'm just going to pause it there. There's so much more to say, but I'm looking forward to kind of bouncing off of what folks are saying in the chat and the other mentors. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Deirdre. Gosh, so much amazing information that is being shared and already addressed. So many thoughts have been going through my head, and of course my brain is on total burnout, fry out, but I'm going to try and sort of give my 2 cents on this topic. I think this topic is just so relevant to me and what I've been doing. I am a complete full-time performer, musician, actor, creator, and I've made an entire career of this. It has not always been this way, but probably for the last, let me see, 5 to 7 years, I've been a full-time artist, entirely supporting myself. My whole income is based on performance or artistic work. So don't worry, it doesn't start that way. You can never get in your foot in the door and then just have your whole body burst through like the Kool-Aid man. That's not how this works. You know, I wish it did, because like I would have done that 23, you know, but oh yeah, exactly. Thank you, Victoria. Yes, but you know what I mean. It's like, it's amazing how many tiny steps lead to the ultimate thing. And I was serving multiple serving jobs, and those serving jobs gave me the space to have a little bit of room to build my career, and everything is one step at a time. So, you know, don't ever think that, again, I'm going to use the same analogy that I've used before. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, you know, create your elephant and and work your way toward the big goal, the North Star, the blue sky. I think another thing is that I've never really, I don't know. I was the person at a very young age who wanted that like make it career. I want to be a star. How am I going to get there? I don't know. I don't even think I still have the talent to be an Ariana Grande or Whitney Houston. I don't, you know, but we all have something to offer. And in fact, we have multiple things to offer. Oh, thanks, Kristina. You're very sweet. And so I think that you know what, I'm gonna amend what I just said. I'll never be Whitney Houston, because I'm gonna be a MF and Krystle Santos, and you all will be yourselves as well, right? And we can only all offer what we have to offer. That's the magic. That's the star, right? And it's just so exciting that we all have our own things to do. And of course, just like at a buffet, I'm not going to pick the things that you're going to pick, because I don't necessarily like them or resonate with them. But when I'm at that buffet, I'm going to pick up that watermelon. I'm going to have a little bit of salad, maybe some potatoes. You know what I mean? Make your own buffet plate of the things that you love best to make your income, because there are dozens out there to actually allow you to make a complete career. And then when you get to the point where your plate's too darn full, you can start really, you know, making sure that what you have is exactly what you want. You can start charging more. You can start saying no. You can start doing a lot of things. And those are the steps that I've noticed, that I've been, you know, extremely privileged to be able to take. So I would say yes to absolutely everything creative, because it would fill up my cup, it would give me the income. But as soon as you start being able to sort of really specify, and it's in that experience that you start recognizing what works and what doesn't. So for example, you know, 5 years ago, I would have said, gosh, I wish I could perform in all of the big theaters. And I wish that, you know, I had a show that really spoke to this and that. I'd love an easier or more passive style income. I'll explain to you what it is that I'm doing and how I got there. I'm doing school shows, and a lot of them are virtual. All I do is I log on, play a video that I've already created, and then have a Q&A afterwards. That's an incredible source of income for me right now. In fact, in February, I did that every single weekday because it was Black History Month. And that was a fruitful month 1 month after I had a baby. So I was able to come back in after having a baby and a toddler to do all that work. And it was just insane because I set myself up for success, right? I am currently on tour, and I will be on tour all summer long with my children, doing a co-created show called Hey Viola. You know, this is a show that I was lucky to come upon, that was sort of almost offered to me. But that's because of all the extra work that I'd done before. People knew what I was doing. And then, you know, these things sort of work out. I am a co-creator. I'm not going to say it was handed to me. However, it is something that I've worked toward. And as much as touring with kids is, oh my Lord, it's also, it's also the exact thing I want to be doing right now. The work that, again, where I'm narrowing it down and getting to sort of really whittle what I'm doing down to something specific, is that the work I want to do now is work that is sharing important information, work that is making our society better, work that is educating people. And so when that's my goal, and of course that was never my goal to begin with, sometimes you don't know what it is. It's when you start finding stuff that really starts, you know, you can start shedding away the stuff that you're like, I don't want to play a hotel gig anymore. But when I was playing hotels, that was the shit. I loved it. It was exactly what I needed and wanted to do. I could play at the Prohibition, you know, 2 nights a week. And then I could play at the Belmont on Friday nights every week. And I loved that at the moment because of what it did for me then. It allowed me to be a full-time musician then, and it got me where I am now. So I'm saying nothing is invaluable, just like both of these amazing mentors have also been saying. But I think you can always keep driving forward and shed certain things off of the back of your trunk. And, you know, you start really streamlining and getting to where you want to go. And every step is valuable. Nothing is not worth it. In fact, my stupid squawky voice was saying, at 40 years old, how did you not get here sooner? Why are you 40 and doing this? Why weren't you 30 and doing this? But I'll tell you why, because at 30, I was just moving to Vancouver. At 27, I was just finishing my science degree in university. At 23, I was traveling Europe. I lived a life. It's okay, you know, and all of this is leading me to exactly where I am. So A, it's never too late. B, you can pick your exact perfect formula for you of all the things you can and want to do. And you can balance it all because of what you need and you want to prioritize. So, you know, this is more of a pep talk. And I think there's also a practical application to things, because I also do acting like Lola, like Kristina, like probably many of you. I do commercials. I do some TV and film. I do some theater. You know, but luckily I'm only doing right now my co-creation, my school shows, my original music. And it's taken a while to get there, but you can't necessarily, you can put that as your goal, but you need to take the steps and have the experience and be able to say, no, this is not for me. Or, hey, you know what? I didn't even know that was a thing. Now I really want to do it. So my stuff really leads or is led by performance. I'm not necessarily, I think there are teachers out there who are magical and so passionate and inspiring. I'm not a technical person. I can't play the piano. I can't relate to you a lot of the technical parts of music. So I don't teach, because I feel like someone else can teach a little more effectively, a little more powerfully. And you know, that might not be for me, but it could be for you, or it could be a step for you to fill in that gap to then go to the next thing, and so on and so forth. So now I'm rambling a little bit, but there's just so much. There's so much, you know, and a lot of you say that you're a singer, songwriter, and performing and doing all of that. And maybe 3% of your income is only coming from specifically being a singer, songwriter, but perhaps, you know, there's more to fill that out, which all encompasses being a singer-songwriter, or encompasses your dream, or encompasses the sort of larger goal. Like I said, mine's performing. Maybe something is more the songwriting scheme of things. Maybe something is a bit more of the just being creative, you know, like there are a lot of creative jobs. Maybe you want to be the director of a theater, and then you get to deal with a whole bunch of people who are creative and create a season, and you can work as somebody who is more of a, you know, a presenter in the industry, and so on and so forth. There's so much to do. And I think that we need to be exposed to the opportunities as to what is possible. And we need to shine the light on all kinds of jobs and things that bring creative passion to the forefront and an income availability. And grant writing is another one of them, for yourself, for others. I think grant writing is just so awesome. But yeah, there's some questions now. I haven't caught up in the chat here. Oh gosh, there's so many good comments. So many good stuff is going on here. So many good stuff. So many good things. Yes, for me, I've consciously devised 50% in front of the lens of 50%. Yeah, beautiful. I love that, Kristina, right? Because there's just, you can, and another thing is like creating your own work. And I've said this in past sessions, the creation of your own work is incredibly invaluable. By creating your own work, you basically are just creating all of the job, the most specific and perfect job for you. And I think that's the most powerful thing that I've learned. Before I pass it back to Kristina, who has her hand up, Victoria says, I did some research and learned that most musicians' income comes from live performance and merchandising sales. Do you think that's still true? And with shows coming back, I don't know. It depends on your career. It depends on your, if I may use this idea again, the smorgasbord plate. It depends, like mine is mostly coming from live performance, some merchandise sales, but merchandise sales also involve a lot of a huge investment up front. I just recorded a Hey Viola soundtrack that cost, if I'm going to be completely honest, about $20,000 to create, 10,000 of which was funded and grant, subsidized, but 10,000 of which came right out of my pocket. So if you have that kind of cash to offer, but I am going to be making that back, and I just need to sell half of the 1,000 CDs that in order to break even and then start profiting. But I'm also making money from the show. I'm also making money from the co-creation of the show, being one of the, original writers of the show. And that's just Hey Viola, that's not the other thing. So, but yeah, I mean, income it's coming from a lot of sources for me personally. Yeah. Yeah. I agree, Deirdre. Yeah, you have to have a certain audience size to make merch make sense. Oh, another thing, sorry to keep on rambling here and we'll open it up again, is that I was speaking to Alana Bridgewater. I just went and saw Da Kink in My Hair. She was mentioning and talking about, oh yeah, Lola was there same night. Hey Lola. Yeah. She was talking about income from YouTube. This is a whole nother thing. She knows somebody who is making $40,000 a month. And I'm not trying to make this sound as though this is all entirely possible, but it was an Indigenous person who was talking about their hair and having really quality, amazing content that was creating, but you have to be consistent. You have to do weekly posts. It's an entire carved out career that you're going to have to put a lot of investment into, building your whole studio setup, having the content, having the consistency. But this is another amazing area of which I think we could all tap into. Yes, a successful YouTube channel is actually a full-time job, but you can make that your job. You can do that instead of working, in an office somewhere for someone else. You can make that your own personal job. But again, it takes a lot. It takes a lot, but it's possible. So I think that's my biggest thing. Everything is possible and nothing is overnight. Yeah. So, Deirdre, Kristina, do you want to say anything else before we maybe open the floor, ask a few questions, do anything else before what time is it? Yeah, I think we could probably ask a few questions and open up the floor a little bit after, if Kristina and Deirdre have nothing else to say.
Kristina, I think you had your hand up earlier, so go for it.
Thank you, Deirdre. Yeah, very quickly, just going back 2 steps, I like to think about careers as having 2 faders. And us as human professionals, I'll say, we have 2 faders, right? you have your, what I like to call your human meatbag citizen of the world fader, which is, if it's too high, I know people are like, oh, that's such an image. And I'm like, yes, but you'll never forget it. So with your human meatbag citizen of the world fader, if that's too high up, that is essentially that's your legacy piece. That's you leaving the world better than you found it. And for example, if that's really, really high up, that's like, Greta Thunberg for all the amazing things that she does. It's someone who's on a Greenpeace ship who's like fighting constantly. That's their entire life and existence, right? Everything is not necessarily legacy, but is leaving the world better than you found it. Then you have your soul's ascension piece, which is you leaving the world a better person than you started. And that is those two faders, if I can make it the simplest analogy possible, are really, to me, what matters. Because when you're trying to peddle an artistic, creative career in the gig-based economy, I find that most people who are artists or creatives live with our hearts as close to our sleeves as possible every day. So we have these two faders always, one way or another, right? So if you take an easy step and learn how to audit once a week and go, where is my fader at? I don't know about you, but there's a big difference between being tired and being depleted. And I think the key in between those two things is to say, okay, where is my human meatbag citizen of the world fader? Is this up too high? Am I serving other people so much at my own detriment? I haven't written a song. I haven't produced this thing. I've prioritized someone else. You check yourself. If you push that fader then the other way too far up and your soul's ascension is too high, you're not participating as a human being. You're participating as a future soul, which is great, but you may as well sit under a tree and wait for peace to come and find you. In my opinion, just my opinion. The sweet spot is knowing that sometimes you'll have to push one a little bit higher. Sometimes you'll have to push the other a little bit higher, but knowing that there's an end point and always looking to try and achieve the balance between those two, that helps you to not feel as depleted, and it allows you to be okay with being tired. So in your careers, I just wanted to add to that, because Krystle, you've said it so well. You talk about the smorgasbord, and Deirdre, the comments that you've been posting. Designing your career, if you don't understand that there will be times, like I'm in a time right now where I'm producing a show for Eliminate Hate, which is against anti-Asian racism. I'm curating a show at the Vancouver Chinese Garden. I'm learning how to live stream. I've got all of these different things, facets going on, and I'm consulting on a business perspective, and I do Music BC's career jumpstart program. So I do one-on-one individual sessions like multiple times a week. I have to now take a step back and go, when was the last time I wrote a song? When was the last time I went and sat by a tree and just cried? When was the last time I fed my artist self, right? And I can see everyone nodding, and thank you, Deirdre, for the metaphor, love. It's one of my favorites. I hope that with everything that was just spoken about up until this point, you put that into, I'm going to take this away at the end of the day and ask myself where my faders are at right now, and what do I need to do to make them finite, or make it so I feel a little bit better about them. That's what I wanted to add in there.
I love that so much. My mind is totally blown. I am going to be chewing on that for the rest of the day, for sure.
Amazing. Okay, let's open up this panel a little bit. We've had amazing dialogue in the chat. Is there anybody who has anything to say, share, or perhaps ask any questions in regards to kind of juggling each of your careers? And of course, career to me also means life. So let's not limit that to just our job or what brings us income or supports our lifestyle. I love, like Deirdre said, I love that analogy of the faders, because that is exactly where I'm at. And, at this point in my career, and I'm very, very grateful for it. I said it before, I am so tired, but I'm so satisfied. I'm not depleted. And I can happily, gratefully, and very, very, grateful, I think is the best word, say that. And me and my husband walk around like zombies, and we're like, we're so grateful. This is great. This is wonderful. because we have a 4-month-old and a 2.5-year-old at home who never stops moving. And, but we're both achieving in our career. We don't own a home. We can't. Not right now, not in BC, but look at the bigger picture. Look at what you're doing. Look at what fulfills your heart and your soul. Look at your purpose in life and what it is that you're really satisfied with. Aisha has her hand up. What's up, Aisha? Talk to us.
Hi guys, I apologize that my camera's not on, but I wanted to just add that in terms of like how the industry is going right now for musicians, like songwriters included, but also people who are not so much visual artists in terms of like having themselves represented that way. We have like all these new innovations like TikTok, Instagram, and those are ways to like plug and promote ourselves. But at the same time, it's like, how do we keep up with creating this content and as well maintaining the joy that we get from it? Because Kristina was saying in the chat, like we have to focus on, getting pleasure from being content creators and enjoying that overall.
Great question. Anybody want to address that? Or I mean, I could say something on it, but if anybody else has thoughts, then I can say something after. Yeah, go for it, Deirdre.
Yeah, I think this relates really directly with that previous session we did about social media, the visual marketing session. My big advice on the content creation is to choose a handful of types of posts that resonate with you, whether that's behind the scenes or process posts or inspirational posts or previewing upcoming work posts, whatever fits with where you're at right now, and then creating that content calendar that I talked about in the last session. So deciding how many days a week you're going to post, even if that's once a week. The algorithm is all about consistency. Once a week is sort of the minimum. And literally print out a calendar or use Google Calendar and put it, like color code it. I'm going to post 3 days a week and cycle through the different types of posts. And then it takes the brain work out of it. It takes the guesswork. It takes that last minute content creation scramble, that panic of like, oh, I should be posting something, but I don't know what to post, or I'm simply not feeling it today, right? So if you know what your whole month of content is going to be ahead of time, it really, really, really helps. And then you just stick to your schedule and revisit at the end of every month. Just do a little reflection. How did that work? Was that too much work? Do I feel depleted by that? Or did I strike the right balance? Maybe I go down to posting twice a week because three times a week was a little bit too taxing on me. Or maybe I feel really, really good and I can do an extra post. Or maybe I feel good and I'm just going to maintain this frequency for another month and then revisit. So you're always, there's no hard and fast rule. There's no set formulas. It's always organic. It's always flowing with where you're at, where your own personal resources and energy are at, what you're capable of. Yeah. Oh, and thank you so much, Lola. So the playback, the replay of our last session on social media is on YouTube. The link is right there. Highly recommend it. We get into that, how to do that balance. And apologies, Aisha, if you were at that session and I'm just telling you what you already know and it didn't answer your question. But so over to Krystle.
Yes, I was going to add that I think that content creation and social media is exactly the same as the smorgasbord of your career. For example, maybe some of us are really good at doing covers and posting those on a regular basis. Maybe some of us are really amazing at reaction videos. Like my brother is funny guy. And he's, like every time that he reacts to something, I'm like, you should have a YouTube channel for this. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe showing people how you do makeup or a tutorial, that's your thing. Maybe just posting inspirational stuff or a couple of selfie photos or whatever. Maybe that's your thing. Like it is that individual. It is that personalized and that specific to which you can choose what you want to do. Also, it's not your job to do social media if you don't want to. You don't have to engage in this area if you don't want to. So I just want to open that up too. That's just an option. It is not our obligations as humans nowadays, because this is available to us, to always and only serve and feed the beast. It is not necessarily the thing that you have to focus on. You can just focus on your career. You can just build your, your songwriting catalog. You can just work on your performance schedule. So, I'm just saying that because guess what? I don't post every day. In fact, I don't post every week. Might not even post every month. But I can tell you something. If someone reached out to me and said, what are you doing? Or what's your performance schedule calendar? Just check out my website and you will see that I'm working nearly every day. And if I'm not, then I need that day off. And I'm not going to go and create content on Instagram just for the sake of it. That's just my 2 cents on that. But also remember that you can personalize exactly what you want to do to what jives with you. Maybe creating that studio song feels great every week, and you get together with your buddies and you make that live performance video and it's awesome and you have a great time doing that, and then you post and it feels satisfying and it fills your soul, then that's your thing. Don't let anything, Kristina mentioned before, don't let anything be a labor. Let everything that you're choosing to do and create and curate that stuff to you. Kristina, go for it.
I think that those 2 comments were amazing. And I think for me, I'm actually the opposite. I post all the time. If you follow me on social media, I have a story. I have multiple stories every day. I do not actually schedule any of them. And that's testament to it being really about how you best work. And knowing how you best work. There are certain other instances that I know I have to create a content schedule because it's a focused outcome. It's an album release, and that's what, I think Deirdre, balancing who you are on social media and why you are posting and what the outcome is that you want to achieve by doing that. Most people will do social media because they think they're supposed to. And I think that is very much the same sentiment as I was saying earlier. People tell me all the time, I want to do sync and licensing, and they have no idea what that means, but they have been told that that is a potential income stream. I get so many actors who say, I really want to be an actor. And then when I say, oh, okay, would you like to audition 8 times a week, have a 1 in maybe 30, every 30 auditions, chance of success, wait for 8 months to be able to get in the room. And they're like, oh, no, I just want to be an actor. I'm like, great, you and me both. But the difference is what you're willing to do and why you're willing to do it. So for you all today, I think taking that moment to say, what is it? So Jill saying, I get caught up in the numbers. Oh, I don't look at scales anymore. My goodness. What your measurement, look at numbers though, but change the numbers if they don't feel good. So if I'm not going to look at a scale, I'm going to look at my physical measurements and be like, okay, I want to fit into Gal Gadot outfits. What measurements matter to me? Because I'm very dense and very heavy I am the elephant that Krystle keeps talking about, eating one bite at a time. I literally am like an elephant. So I don't measure my weight because it's not relevant to standard society. If you are not what would fit into your normal quote unquote pop culture society, don't use those numbers. Find your numbers, because what you need ultimately is 1,000 super fans. And if 1,000 super fans gave you the equivalent of $10 each a month, you would be making $10,000 $10 each, 1,000 super fans, $10,000 a month. That's a $120 income, right? So how you get those 1,000 super fans is entirely up to you. And if it's a waste of time for you to be doing social media, or you're feeling that it's depleting and not tiring, then where else can you put that money, effort, and time? You could maybe work one more shift and pay someone $50 to do your social media for you. And that's one of the other things that I think we need to touch on is, how do you triage your own time, money, and expertise? What's going to pay you the most money? What is going to give you, with the least effort, if it's something that is like when Krystle was talking about serving, that pays you money for you to be able to leave at the end of the day and not think about it again. That gives you mental capacity to write a song. So on the other side, if you're doing social advocacy work like I do a lot, it's mentally quite draining, but I need to charge a certain amount of money to have enough downtime to then go away and write my songs. If you're teaching, it's the same thing. You're getting given, if you're a high school teacher, for example, you're front loading your working so that you have 3 months off in the summertime, right? Starting to think about creative ways within your hybridity to generate income and generate mental capacity is so important.
This chat is giving me all the feels. Any other comments or questions that we can kind of nibble on or discuss? Let's see, Rachel, is there any advice you wish you could tell your younger self when you were beginning stages of full-time career once you got there? I'm now working full-time as a singer, songwriter, and vocal producer, editor, and want to make sure my continuing. Okay. Are you happy? Are you satisfied with what you're doing now? Is it bringing you joy? Because I would tell, and it's not that much younger of a person. It's maybe a few years ago. It's the fact that, am I being burned out with the thing that's bringing me the income now, even though it's the thing I thought I wanted to do all along, right? Maybe it's gigging. Maybe I'm gigging too much. Maybe I'm losing my voice. Maybe I'm just exhausted from getting home at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, right? That's when you can start diversifying. I think it's always just checking in with yourself. And finding balance and being able to know that that nothing is stagnant. Nothing has to be stagnant. Everything can always change and be adapted and crafted to what works for you now, if that makes sense. And I think that constantly sort of checking in means that you're constantly assessing what you've got, looking at the big picture and saying, is this bringing me joy? Am I well balanced here? Am I getting to do the things that I want to do? Perhaps I'm working too much for others, like Kristina mentioned. Even if it's in a creative field, you can be burnt out when you're doing creative stuff. Maybe I'm working too much for others and I need to switch the fader to maybe check in with my creative soul self and say, maybe it's time for a solo EP. I need to sit by a tree and meditate or go for a walk and have a song and check in with what's emotionally on my heart. I think it's always just that awareness. Deirdre says, don't bother with imposter syndrome. Yes, absolutely. Everybody has it. Isn't that the truth? I think it's just you'll always have negative thoughts that will never go away. It is how you deal with them. You can say, oh, the negative thoughts, or you can be like, oh, it's you again. You know what? Go away. I've got better things to do, right? And it's all about how you deal with that stuff. So I think in terms of my younger self, it's everything that I'm telling you guys. It's one step at a time. It's constantly changing. It's constantly checking in and constantly readjusting to see what it is that we're doing that's going to serve our current present selves. So I think that's a big thing that I would have told myself. Anybody else? Kristina says, I would tell my younger self to always apply for the top job. Yeah. Apply for the top agent, pursue the top manager. Yes, my husband taught me this. And that's something that I never did for myself before. I always aimed for mediocrity until I met my husband. And he's somebody who said, why are you doing that when you can have the best gear? Why are you buying the cheap thing to save money when you can spend just double now to have 10 times more of the value later,
I want to add to that, Krystle, as well, because my older sister did the same thing for me. When I started out in music, I started learning guitar when I was 24 with a Guitar for Dummies DVD. And I didn't even finish the DVD. But my sister brought me in when I went back to Hong Kong after my first degree, or in between, I think. And she brought me to the top agency, the top modeling agency. And I was, like I said, an elephant. And in Asian cultures, being a size 4 is like being a size 40. But she walked me straight in and said, what does she need to do? What does she need to do to be and they replied and said, I need to lose 10 kilos. And I was like, I couldn't necessarily do that, which is fine. But we asked. And I think the important thing the reason I said this to Rachel's question is, the more important thing for me is when you decide you're going to go for that top agent, you hold yourself accountable to the standard that you think they're going to expect. So just by virtue of deciding to say, I'm going for this, you will look at your things. And if you're embarrassed by what you're about to submit to them, you've answered your own question. It doesn't mean don't do it. It means you have work to do. So a lot of us get stuck in this myth of, I'd love to be on Broadway. I would not now love to be on Broadway. I was the first Hong Konger to ever get accepted into the London School of Musical Theatre. I got there the first day and went, I should leave. Because I did well there. But I recognized after I got into one of the top schools in the world, I found that I could see much more clearly what was and wasn't for me. And I fell in love with film acting, and I fell in love with the things that I was good at. And I really had to push myself to be exceptional at the things that I was good at, because I couldn't dance to save my life. And because I couldn't do the things that I had thought that I was going to do. So hold yourself accountable, put yourself into that top tier, and ask yourself why you don't feel ready enough to ask the questions that you say you want to ask, and then do something about it. And if that answer is, I'm not actually willing to put what is, like for me, it was, I'm not willing to put in all of those hours of extra dance work to do these types of shows, I'm not loving that, then you get to happily let that go. But if you don't, and you continue to hold that myth in your mind, all you're doing is slowly but surely degrading your sense of self-worth as an artist, instead of taking something, going as far as you can, and then moving on when it's not the right thing for you. Does that make sense? And Rachel, that's what I would say to you.
Every single thing you said applies to me. I can relate to every single thing that you said there. And it's fantastic advice, because I think you hear it many times. It is just as important, maybe more important, to figure out what you don't want to do as it is to figure out what you do want to do, and to really drive ahead in the things that really drive you forward. There was a question there that was saying, and I think this relates to it very directly, is how does it feel to keep going and continue finding drive or purpose after the initial shock of the pandemic and in such volatile times? It is amazing, and it's just finding the things, I guess it's simple here, that bring you joy, that bring you satisfaction, that make you want to drive forward. I've discussed this many times. I was on tour on school shows, and they were bringing me joy at the time in late 2019, early 2020, and then boom, gone. Everything's gone. Right? There's no substitution for that. However, then we discovered that everyone's going virtual. So I recorded those school shows virtually. Do you know how much more income I'm making from virtual school shows than schlepping around a sound system, my whole family, cars, a band, being the administrator who's booking hotels, coordinating with my agent, everything else? All I got to do now is log on, and I recorded 2 videos. And those videos were a joy to record. I probably put a couple $1,000s into each of them. And now all I do is log on, press play, and say, hey, any questions at the end? And the end of that thing that seemed like it was the end of something turned into something even better, right? It's always that adapting and that driving forward. And all of those things, those shows showed me that I want to make more school shows, because it's satisfying to me. It's something where you just keep on driving forward in the thing that feels like it gives you a spark. So I know that the pandemic was a huge shock and a huge disappointment, depression, loss, so many things, so many negatives for a lot of people. I am the person who likes to find the phoenix, is the phoenix rising from the ashes. I like to find the thing that comes from rebirth, that comes from the, what is born from destruction, and I think that will help you driving forward as well. It's hard to feel motivated when the pandemic and economy, yes, climate. However, Deirdre says she continues to cling to a ridiculous notion that dreams and my own version of happiness are simply worth pursuing. I think that is the key to happy life, in my opinion, right now. That's where I'm finding my joy, knowing that your happiness, your joy, your satisfaction is the ultimate goal, right? Okay. Anything else? I stopped having purpose and felt zero joy. So I stopped performing and focused on not doing anything or trying to pivot. I gave myself permission to be a puddle. Yes, until one day, without expectation, I felt like writing. Wow, that gives me chills. The only thing I did not do is I did not stop training as a creative.
So
that is absolutely beautiful. Yes.
Can I just jump in very quickly on that?
Go ahead.
Thank you. It's that whenever someone says this to me, and burnout is real and decision fatigue is real, and the pandemic as my friend Donna calls it, pandemic, so that doesn't sound so brutal. When those things happen, and as a creative, and I call us all creatrepreneurs, we're creative entrepreneurs, whether we like it or not. You have to be okay with not being in love with your work every day. You have to be okay with that, but you cannot be okay with not training every day. I have to wake up in the morning and I have to do my vocal warm-ups. Those are not negotiable things. And I think that when you go through those moments, you need to figure out what it is that you have that is a non-negotiable, resolute thing. Because I will tell you, if you stop singing, if you're all of you are singers here, you stop singing within 2 or 3 days, you'll notice how much your serotonin levels go down, how much you're not, and for me, it took me so long to recognize that I was sad, and so I wasn't singing, and so that was it was compounding that, right? Do not confuse having to create with training. Because this is a long game industry, like any profession. If you want to be the top of any profession you're in, which you all obviously do because you're here today, then you don't have to love your job, but you have to train in it always. And that just wake up and do that work. And if it's 7 minutes for me, I'm like 7 minutes, and then I know I've done it. And if it's 1 minute or if it's 2 minutes, hold yourself accountable to something that doesn't require you to be creative. And then let yourself be a puddle for as long as you feel like you have to be, because what it is your body telling you that you need to, that your brain, your mind, your synapses, your synaptic fluid needs to refresh. It's your body's telling you these things. So I just wanted to add that, because I love the pursuit of joy, but I'll be totally honest, right now I have none. I'm doing my job. I am just doing my job. And soon I will be really happy, but now it's just not that time, and I have to be okay with that, but I have to keep training.
I love that so much. I just want to hop on for a second and say that I went through such a process when I started my PhD on the Jews harp, and it was my dream. And my dream had always been up in the sky. It had been in the clouds. It had been above my head. Like, it was physically above me, and I was like striving upwards. That's what it felt like. And then when I moved to London and I started my PhD, and I was like, yes, the dream, it's the thing, I'm doing the thing. The cloud where my dream lived came down to earth. And then it was like, oh, my dream is just my life now. And my dream is my reality. And let me tell you, when it's in cloud land, there's like Vaseline on the lens. It's like that soap opera lighting. The edges are smooth and kind of diffused, and it's that beautiful soft light. You don't see any of the stuff. And then when it comes down into 3D Earth reality land, you're like, oh, it's just life, and it's just my job. It's my job to do my dream. And I resonate with that so much, which means you are not in love with it every single day. There are off days, like literally any job. There's going to be days where you're like, I'm not feeling this. I got nothing. I got nothing for this today. And that's fine. And just know, don't let that crush you. You know, it's like it's like being in love with a person. You can't be that person. It can't be perfect every single day, right? There's going to be days where you're like, oh, okay, let's take some space. it's just like that when you're pursuing your dream and when you're pursuing your joy, is that when it becomes reality, you have to deal with its reality, and you have to deal with warts and all, right? And you have to deal with the hustle and the slog that it sometimes is, just like any other job. What I cling to is, on the bad days where it feels like a slog, I'm like, well, I'd rather be slogging at my dream than my not dream. And that's really what it comes down to. But y'all, it's work. It's work. Don't think, I hate the thing where it's like, if you love your work, if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. No, if anything, you will work 10 times harder because it means so much to you, and you have terrible boundaries with it because you're so enmeshed with the dream. So yeah, it's like people who are entrepreneurs who run a small business. They'll be like, yeah, I left my 9 to 5 so that I could work 100 hours a week at my own business and never have time off. So you do get, it's different, and in many ways it's more work to turn your dream into reality, and there can be major disillusionment with it when it becomes your reality. It's like, oh crap, did I make the right choice? Because this sure is a slog. But yeah, ultimately, if it's your chosen slog, that's it. That's the thing. If you are choosing it and it's what you've got to do, it's what you've got to do, and it's worth it. Because on the good days, oh my God, the good days are freaking amazing. And you're like, yeah, that good day that you have like once a month makes it all worthwhile.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. Oh, all of the things.
I
Kristina?
had one quick request, is that everyone, before we go into the breakout room, like within the next 20 seconds, just writes one sentence of one takeaway that they got so far. Because I love doing that midway, to be like, what's one thing that you were like, oh, I'm taking that. So if you feel like doing it, drop it in the chat. I loved, I'll say I love, Blue Sky. I loved Deirdre's juice harp story of like when your dream crashes into reality. I loved that. I'm taking that away of like, be aware of it,
Oh, what a good idea. Now I want to do that at every single session. Look at all this, like all of these. Yeah, we should post all of this on our social media. That's a good idea. All of our takeaways, because this is huge. What a wonderful exercise.
Halftime takeaways, to quote a sport analogy that I know nothing about.
Halftime takeaways. That's a great way of saying it. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So let's chat in our breakout rooms. Thanks, everybody.
Everyone's like that. I was like, bye.
Because we're all talking right up until the edge.
Yeah. And here's a list of like,
yeah. Oh, you all had that too, did you?
Yeah.
Well, I loved my breakout room. That was fantastic. I hope you guys also had the same wonderful experience as I always do. I think now is the time for a couple of final comments and closing statements. And then I will thank you again and again and again for being here, because what a wonderful session this has been. So let's throw it to Deirdre first to...
Sure.
Yeah.
I am just once again so grateful for this community. It's just so amazing to spend the time with all of you. Like, it is so incredibly enriching. And I mean, yeah, Krystle and I, we always say the same thing at the end of the session, where we're like, I got as much of this from this as anybody, and almost feeling selfish that like this is so enriching for us. We might be mentors in the program, but we're also participants in the program, and we need this sharing space as much as anybody, right? So we're all just building each other up here, and that's what Emergence is all about, and I love it. I love to see it. Yeah, oh my God, like this session and the last one on social media, I feel like I need to just go back and watch them again. Like, I feel like I need to actually watch the replay, which is kind of weird because I'm in it, but like, which I would never do. I'm like, I don't need to see myself again, but like, just to hear, oh my God, like Kristina, the stuff that you shared today is just so deep. It's so deep. So I'm just really excited to process today's session, quite frankly. And I know it's going to be the gift that keeps on giving. So yeah, I'll just say it's so good to see all of you again. Welcome to the new people. Welcome back to our return members. I love you guys. So thank you so much again.
Thanks, Deirdre. Kristina?
Thank you. Thank you, Deirdre, for such lovely, kind words. And Krystle, you know, the two of you, I feel like it was a really great combination of perspectives, of experience, of like really deep knowledge. And I feel like I could pick both of your brains for hours on end. And I would love to at another time, maybe when you're back from Edmonton, Krystle. My closing comments would be thank you for being such a receptive group of people, for taking accountability to produce your own music and make those choices. When I was younger in the industry, I didn't do that. And I ended up with hundreds of songs that will never be seen as a result. So I really want to thank you for not being, for being courageous enough to step up and take control of what sounds you want to come into the world. And then the other thing I would say is you're always welcome to find me on Instagram and ask me for this list of links. But I believe that Lola will have a copy of the resources. So that's amazing. And I just wanted to say thank you to Lola as well, because someone running the tech side of things makes all the difference in the world. Always thank your sound checks, always your sound techs and your AV techs. And the final thing I would say is one request that I have is that you make a very specific call to action for other people to follow Emergence, to and to individually invite and try and recruit 2 or 3 more people to come to the next event. I can't state that enough, because I know what it takes, and I've been on panels for funding, and I know what it takes to present a case for this to happen again. And I think if you found it as valuable as I hope you did, then 5 minutes of your time to write back to Creative BC, to do a post to thank Creative BC, and make those 3 things happen. Bring one person with you to the next one. I can't state it enough. Please do that, because I know how much time and effort goes into what Krystle and Deirdre are doing right now. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Oh, and Music BC, I do want to shout out to the Jumpstart program, because that's a really great complimentary free program that's currently running. And what you can do is go to these mentorship sessions. If there's any unanswered questions, you can go to a Jumpstart program. And you can also, I would suggest, potentially recommend writing to Music BC and saying, can we have Krystle as one of the mentors? Can we have Deirdre as one of the mentors? These people are very open and receptive to requests, right? So just keep that in mind. I know that's a lot of things. I gave you a lot of things, but thank you.
Amazing. One last request I'd like to put out is, since we're doing a nice follow friend thing, let's put all of our posts, what do you call it? Our ID names. That's the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes, follow Friday, follow Saturday.
Yes, put your handle. That's what it's called. Everyone put your handle there. We can all follow each other and support one another. We did this last time for the social media thing, and I think it's really important to support each other individually, as well as we will post our WhatsApp link so that you can all be a part of the WhatsApp chat. And we can always continue any conversation. Everyone is always welcome to reach out to me. I don't want to speak for the mentors, but to have any individual or personalized questions, we can always have a conversation moving on forward on any time. And finally, my takeaway from this is that diversifying your career is such an individual game. It is such a personal, it is as individual as anything can be, and in balance is a huge, huge deal. So I think, make sure that if it's not bringing you joy, that overall it is your big goal that, you're really reaching for. And there have been so many amazing halftime takeaways that I think we should make a post about that. And really celebrate this amazing session. So thank you all so very much for being here. My gosh, it's 11:55, 12:55 for me. And I hope that you all have an amazing day. Enjoy the rest of your beautiful weekend and take some time for yourself. And yeah, excited. I'm excited, as Deirdre said, to rewatch this session. There's so many nuggets in this whole session, and honestly in every session that we do. So thank you all, return people. Thank you all, new people. Thank you so much, Kristina Lao. Wow. Like, just blew me away with all of. And as always, Ms. and Dr. Morgan, you are so fantastic, and I always enjoy spending time with you. So thank you all for being here. And yeah, Lola will have all sorts of gems and post, after session links and nuggets and stuff that she will post or send out to everyone. And of course, our final session next week. Lola, can you help me with that? Not next week, 2 weeks from now on May 28th will be our final Emergence session. And this hasn't been planned. I'm about to say something that might just be a little bit too spontaneous, but I have an Underneath the Harlem Moon Cabaret on June 6th. I believe it's June 6th, that I would like to, if in the next, we'll call it a week, if you want to come and sing a song, I'd like to open that as a final sort of opportunity for everyone to come and enjoy each other's company, and an opportunity as a showcase for our Emergence alumni and family to come and enjoy each other. So that is at it's called Underneath the Harlem Moon, but it's at Gilton Company, 9 p.m. to midnight. Just come and watch, just come and meet each other in person. I already have 2 guests, but I don't care. I will give up my entire 3-hour show just to share it with our Emergence family. So let's try and make that happen. So get in touch with me personally so that we can curate that show if you are interested. And we have a full band to support you if you don't play an instrument, so no worries there. And we'll make a really cool final show of it, right? If you're able. I know some people are in the Okanagan or in Toronto or on the island or wherever, but if you can come, let's make it work. So that being said, Lola, what is our final session on May 28th?
That is so exciting, Krystle. Thank you. And our final session is May 28th, 10 to 11 a.m. It's an espresso, so it'll be just an hour, no breakout rooms. And the subject is Secrets of a Great Show. And we'll have Krystle again. We'll have our core mentor, Darcy Hahn, Zizi, and we'll also have our guest mentor, Bonnie Soon, joining us.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Thank you for sharing your stories, your experience, your wisdom, your knowledge, your time, your everything. So thank you again to our beautiful mentors, and have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy weekend.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.